Thank you for listening to Hustle and Heart. I'm your host, Edie Weintraub. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Jess Gorsuch, owner of Hapa Kitchen, a Hawaiian food truck based in Atlanta, Georgia. Jess, thank you for being here today.
Hi, thank you so much.
So, for those who haven't had the pleasure of experiencing Hapa Kitchen, could you tell us a little bit more about its origins and how it came to be?
So Hapa Kitchen is a food truck based in Atlanta. It's a small business owned and operated by myself and my partner, Sara. Sara was born and raised in Hawaii, and we actually met in Hawaii in 2021. So it's a very important part of our story. We ended up both being huge foodies and chefs, and we didn't even really know that about each other until afterward. And so Sara had a food truck before Aloha Aina in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm classically trained in French and Italian cuisine, interestingly enough. And I had a bakery brick and mortar in Raleigh, Durham for years. And so we came together, and this is what we call our love child. And so Hapa Kitchen was born. Hapa means to mix. And so Hapa Kitchen is a kind of like a blend of the Hawaiian culture, which is already in and of itself like a smorgasbord of like Asian and Pacific Islander cuisines. We blended that with our Southern influences here down in Georgia. So yeah, it's kind of a mashup. I would say it's one of those places where you can go that you'll get something new, but also something that still feels like home. And so that's a lot about what our truck likes to do.
That's a beautiful story to tell us how you got into culinary. So, knowing you had this love of Hawaiian food and this friend to partner with, give us a little bit of backstory in regards to, out of all the experiences you've had in culinary, this is your first offering to go Hawaiian and to go food truck. I'm excited to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I actually started working in the food service industry when I was 14 years old. I remember begging my mom to please let me get an early job permit. So I went down there and I got that. I had to have good grades in order to get approved for it. And so I've been working in food service since I was really young. It started off with a love for cooking when I was 8 years old. I got my first cookbook from my grandmother, and I used to destroy and also sometimes succeed at many, many, many things in there. And so one of the things that I've always loved, actually, my mom and my dad met in Korea. And so I've always had a really big love for Asian food. So it was always something that meant a lot to me. And then so whenever Sara and I started cooking together, that was something that we always did, is make Hawaiian and Asian food together. And so that's, it's a big part of my children's lives, our lives. And we really just wanted to kind of do something that really meant a lot to us cuisine-wise. And so I've done catering before, more traditional catering. And again, Sara had a Hawaiian truck before, so we kind of came together to make this menu a little bit more traditional in terms of being a comfort food restaurant. So versus just fast food, we really wanted something that felt like home and felt really good, where people looked at and also ate our food.
So I actually was not exposed to Hawaiian food until I came across Aranita. She's in, I believe, Philadelphia, and I met her at a food conference. Do you know her?
I've actually heard of her through Sara.
Oh, the world is so small.
Yes. So we've talked a lot. We actually travel around the country going to Hawaiian restaurants. When we travel, we always try to find somewhere that makes us, kind of feel like we get to try something that we like. And we try spam musubi everywhere, things like that. We love. It's one of my favorite breakfast things. So we really like to go out and see if we can find really good chefs in the area that really do a good job at Hawaiian food, because it is so across the board. There's the poke side, and then there's that comfort food side that we personally love.
Hers was called Poi Dog, and I think she ended up closing the restaurant or the food truck, but now has gone into consumer product goods. So I'm happy to get everybody connected.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yes. I hope I'll be seeing her in a couple of weeks at a new conference for women in food and beverage, and I'll tell you all about it. So hopefully you can join us next time. Share a moment that you realized this current path is something that you felt was a calling and not a job. Because I see and hear the passion in your voice and the excitement and the bright eyes that you get when you're talking about this venture. So tell us more.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I was a non-traditional student. I grew up in poverty. It was really, it was really difficult. I had a huge responsibility to not only take care of myself, but also my siblings. So I ended up actually being emancipated at 16. So I've lived on my own since I was 16. And again, I've been working since I was 14. And working in service industry always came naturally. And it was kind of easy for me because I really pick up with being around people. I love interacting with people. I love communicating. I love food and I love art. So these are some of the things that really mean a lot to me. When I was around 30, I had just finished I was getting my master's in education and in liberal studies. So I worked really hard. Again, I was a first generation student and non-traditional. I had my son when I was 19 years old. Well, I was 20, but I got pregnant with my son when I was 19, so I was very young. And I was a single mom, and I was feeling like maybe working in service industry wasn't the wise thing to do as somebody who was extremely, intelligent in school. I had great grades. I graduated magna cum laude. And I was like, maybe working in service industry is like below me in some way, because people kept, well, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? And so I started working more in education. I ended up working at Stanford. I worked at Berkeley. I worked in a program that worked for the CDC under NIOSH. And so I did a lot of these things, and I never really felt fulfilled. It was really difficult for me to have worked so hard for something to just not like it at all when it came to the actual 9 to 5 aspect of everything. And so I think working with Sara over the last 3.5 years at Aloha Aina also kind of opened my eyes to oh wait, even the worst day working with food and in the service industry is better than even some of the best days that I had working, in tech. And it's not that I didn't like what I did, I just never really fit in because I was so passionate about innovation and creativity when they wanted to kind of put me in a little bubble. And they were like, no, we want to do this thing. I'm like, but what about this? And they're like, no, we said this. And so what I realized is that working in the service industry, my quirks are appreciated deeply. Nobody has ever had anything bad to say about the way that I show up and the way that I am around people. And I can be my bubbly self without needing to be stern. And as a side note, I also have ADHD, and I was diagnosed when I was 12 years old. And so again, being able to be eclectic, being able to be kind of sometimes all over the place, it works well in this industry because I can bounce between the things that make me feel good that day. And same thing for Sara. Sara actually, and Sara's both my life partner and my business partner, that we always say. And she was an engineer. So Sara went to school for engineering and then ended up moving into the food truck industry. So we kind of flip-flopped, where I started off in service and then thought I was going to go legit, and she started legit and realized she loved service industry. And so together we kind of have really talked a lot about what that means for us and how important it is for us always to be in the business of hospitality. And so aside just from Hapa Kitchen, we also own a hospitality group called Adventure Vita. And so through that, we do different things. We're working on a blog, we're working on a class and things like that we can kind of mix in that love for education, that love for engineering with our food also. So we have the food truck part, and we also have this part that kind of is more community driven.
I love that. We spoke earlier today to the ladies who own Ola Amiga Experience. Have you come across them at all?
No, not yet.
Well, I would love to introduce you because they are doing something similarly in building a community for Latina women who have, either body products or food, or one of them makes glasses. And so it's just beautiful to see this entrepreneurial spirit. I feel very much like you in that I tell my business partner all the time, I said, Kayla, what about this? And what about this? And she goes, Edie, I decided long ago that you could be the visionary and I will try to make all the magic come together in real life, because we're a really good balance for one another. And it sounds like you and Sara are that for each other too.
Absolutely. We actually call each other the innovator and the implementer. So I'm the innovator and she's the implementer. Not that sometimes I don't implement, not that sometimes she doesn't innovate, but overall as a personality type, I'm always like, but what about this? What if we did this? What if we put this over here? And she's like, okay, but remember these things cost 75 cents a piece. And I'm like, okay, that's not gonna work. Okay. And so she kind of helps keep me legit, but also she makes my dreams happen. So it works really nice to kind of balance each other out. And I kind of push her out of her comfort zone a little bit. And I think that's what, having a successful business relationship, and especially if you're gonna have a personal relationship with your business partner, it's really important to make sure that, you balance each other out in a way that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think, encouraging one another to be the best you can be. It sounds like you do a lot of that for one another as well.
Absolutely.
So what has been the biggest challenge to date in running a growing company? And, I'm curious to hear how the world of food trucks has grown in the time that you've had it and what the future holds for you.
Yeah, so I would say this is a twofold answer for me personally, and that's that, again, I actually opened a brick and mortar first. So in 2012, I opened my first brick and mortar, and I loved it. I love cooking, I loved it, but I didn't like the fact that had to wait for people to come to me, and I'm again slightly impatient. And so I get there early in the morning, and some days I didn't want to get there early in the morning. And so consistency for me was a little bit of a problem. Not only that, but I always joke around that I made friends with the state in Raleigh. I made friends with the state tax guy who would call me and say, "Hey Jess, remember like the 30th is next week." So even though like he would actually call me to remind me, and like he'd be like, "Let's do it together right now," which is really funny. So I was basically like co-working with the tax guy because he knew that I was just awful at doing certain like systematic things, which again works very well with my business relationship with Sara, because Sarah's the one who is like, okay, I'm like, where are you going? What are you doing? I'm gonna finish the taxes. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna finish like working on this marketing material because I want to like put these colors together, and so I don't actually have to do the things that I know I'm not so good at. So I would say definitely some of the logistical parts of owning a business can be very taxing because they're so time consuming, and running a business is a beyond full-time job. I always say that we're not talking 40 hours a week, and then sometimes people see our shifts, we work maybe 3 to 5 shifts a week. That means for 3 shifts, we're probably working about 45 hours a week. If we're working 5 shifts, we're working about 60 hours a week. So it's not for the faint of heart. And so it is a lot of work and a lot of things that go into it, from marketing to networking to actually prepping the truck and shopping and inventory and all those things. So I think like juggling all of those as a new business can be very difficult, because you're still also just trying to do well, getting your name out there. You don't want to look tired when people come to the truck, because that's how they get to know you. And so a big part of our business in that sense is that we love talking to people. So instead of doing like a lot of online ordering or like things like that, we actually want people to come up so we can talk to them about what Hawaii means to them. And if they've never been there, we love to tell them stories and get them interested in the culture and what Hapa means. So trying to overcome some of that like logistical to make sure that we can really enjoy, I guess the hospitality part has been really important. And then the second part is always, it's a mobile kitchen. And so do you live in Atlanta?
I do.
Okay, then I'm sure you know the potholes aren't getting any smaller and the traffic is not getting any better. And so when you have a giant moving vehicle, you tend to be late for things sometimes because you hit a pothole and all of a sudden, like, a rice cooker goes flying across the truck and you have to stop and fix everything in the back. We've had like one of our like warmers flip over before, and it's just like, I remember once I was like in tears cleaning like food off the floor for an hour of our shift before I could sell anything. And I had customers like, "It's okay, do you need help?" And they came up to help. And just last week, I was just telling Sara, last week we got completely ready. We worked all night, all day, getting ready for this really big shift. Right before we left, she walked by the truck and was like, "Oh my gosh, the exhaust is on the ground." So the exhaust, huge exhaust pipe for our, huge truck is on the ground. And she had just had stitches. She's like, "I can't get down there to fix this." And I was like, okay. So I'm down there like getting I had like dirt on my face. My hands were dirty. And I'm like down there like strapping an exhaust pipe up so we could hurry up and get to this shift so we weren't super late. And it's like when you get there, you're like, okay.
Yes.
I can't even get this like grime off of my hands now. And I'm, cooking. So it's like, oh yeah, the struggle sometimes that come along with having a mobile kitchen can be very interesting.
Absolutely. So it's interesting. I curated Chattahoochee Food Works. So I met with, 1,000 vendors, and unfortunately I curated it in June of 2020. Not the best time to try to get chefs and entrepreneurs to come look at opening a food hall where people gather. But just hearing their stories of people who had either had food trucks or operated in a prep kitchen. Cloud kitchens were just starting to rise at that time. And I said, I haven't been to a cloud kitchen back in 2020. I said, help me understand what it's like and why you would rather be here. And they said, Edie, I like people. I want to see people enjoy my food. That fills my bucket and gives me so much joy. When you're in a ghost kitchen or a cloud kitchen, you're basically in a jail cell and there's no windows and maybe not the best lighting. And even no matter what kind of music you put on, you can't like fuel yourself to just kick out food for something that you don't see the results of at the end of the day. So I think food trucks and food halls are just so full of energy, and get to see the entrepreneurial spirit of the chefs that are cooking for you. The food that means so much to them is just joyful.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And one of the things I was thinking about with regard to this podcast is like, I always tell people who are looking to go into food service that it's purpose over paper. Sara makes fun of me, but I'm like, there's a way to make money and there's a way to fulfill purpose. And sometimes those things work well and together. And sometimes, you kind of have to sacrifice a little bit of one for the other. And so there's a place for ghost kitchens, and there's people who like being in that, like 8 by 4 foot room by themselves all day long. It's not me. We actually, in our kitchen, we actually have like a glow light in there, and we have like a moss wall, like a fake moss wall, because I was like, I don't want to be in here even washing dishes with like all the white walls looking sad. So I definitely pushed the envelope of like what our health inspector was like, okay, you can do that. Okay, you can do that. And I was like, well, can I put this here? She's like, move it over 3 inches and then it's okay. And so I even bought us a 24-inch TV to like play like B-roll of Hawaii, like anything besides feeling like we were in a hole. And so one of the things I was thinking is that a lot of people are moving more towards food halls because food trucks can be really taxing and really complicated, but it's almost like the middle ground between a cloud kitchen and a food truck, where you still get to be around all the people and you don't have to worry about feeling so alone. And again, the people are coming to you because of food hall. Naturally, like, people gravitate towards there, especially Sara and I actually go to Chattahoochee Food Works all the time. We love it there. So we love it. And the food, again, is greatly curated, and it's really important to have that diversity of food. And I would say too that I empathize and understand the need for getting to see people enjoy your food. And again, with having a food truck, a lot of people assume it's just fast food. They see food trucks, they're like, do you have French fries and hamburgers? And I'm looking at our menu that's giant, and I'm looking at our truck, and I'm like, no, we don't sell those, I'm sorry. But I realized that and some people run up, do you have funnel cakes? And I'm like, no, what? And so I realized that sometimes food trucks get a bad rap of just being like, and this is no shade to anybody that has a burger truck or anything, but sometimes people just assume that all food trucks are burger trucks or funnel cake trucks. And for us, it's really important to know that we have great food over fast food. And, you know, our food might take a little bit longer, and it might be, you know, something that you have to really like enjoy sitting down. We serve all of our food for here. So it's like, I always like to say that I love the idea of when people get our food, the look on their face when they eat it makes me so happy, even when they see it. And before they even take a bite, all I see is all hands on deck taking pictures of their food. And what that reminds me of is going on vacation in Hawaii or going to Mexico and getting this beautiful platter of food with like an orc head, and everything is like so well thought out. And like knowing I want to like dig into it, being like, I have to remember this always. And so that's the way that we like to present our food, down to our packaging, which we are an ocean-friendly restaurant, which means that all of the packaging is compostable. All of our food is handmade. Our sauces are made in-house, things like that. Those small things make a huge difference. And so for me, my favorite thing is like handing somebody their food and really getting to see them one at a time. Just, wow, I love this. And it's immediate gratification for one, but also you see them talking about it with their friends, and you see the community building over food. And I think that's something that unfortunately you lose if you're just like DoorDashing or just doing things like ghost kitchens and stuff. You kind of lose that magic, and that's something I never want to have to lose. So I'm really excited. And sometimes even in a regular kitchen, when you know you're back behind the scenes and the cooks don't really get to see people eating their food. So I do like the idea of like the open kitchens and food halls for that matter. They get to actually watch and enjoy.
Oh, well, and it gets you like you're eating with your eyes. You're seeing all the pieces, like the symphony come together with the orchestrator and pulling it all together to give you out that dish. It was really fun at Chattahoochee. The first round of chefs that we've engaged, I invited them to come out to the future food tastings and interviews of the future chefs, because I said, at the end of the day, this is for you, right? This is your food hall. This isn't for me. You know, certainly it's for the audience that's coming in, but yeah, you're going to see these people day in, day out. And I really want you to, one, respect one another, but also potentially have the opportunity to have, you know, your spices go into the ramen and do this limited time offer where this fusion of Hawaiian/Japanese ramen is coming out. And so a couple of them have done it. I'd like to see a little bit more of it, but you know, sooner or later, hopefully it'll evolve.
I feel like we're on the same page, because that's something that Hapa Kitchen, again, as being Hapa being mixed, and it does mean a mix. It could mean a mix of races, a mix of cultures and foods and things. There's no, the actual word means to mix in Hawaii. And so sometimes it gets confused with being part Asian, but actually it's just mixing anything. And so one thing we love to do is collaborations with local pop-ups, other food trucks. We invite people on our truck to hang out, and we've done quite a few. We did one with Gorditas ATL, which is a Mexican restaurant owned by one of our friends, and they came to the truck and we all sold everything together, and we did a mashup. Everything on our menu that day was inspired both by Hawaii and Mexico, and people loved it. It was amazing. All of our sauces, again, we do in-house, and so we had our chef partner Rio went and made some of the sauces from scratch that have more of a Mexican influence with the chiles, and then we put that together with ours. And so we just did our first bow down. We did bow down ATL, which was a bao bun collaboration. I think last week or the week before that. And then we're also doing another one coming up in Columbus, Ohio, also that, same thing. We're able to kind of work with local chefs to kind of show how each of our cultures might make some type of bao or dumpling or something like that. And it's something, they working together with others. It not only promotes small businesses across the board, specifically, we love working together with other women and other minorities and other LGBT folks, and really bringing together and bringing to light some of the work that we do, so that way other people can get some of it, because we do have a lot of following now. And so, even if that adds, 50 followers to another page, that's 50 people that might come see them another time. That really does help make businesses succeed, is working together and not being so much in competition, but in collaboration. So that was really important for us also.
Love that. And that was one of the things that I looked at, right? Because it's one thing to have marketing for a food hall, for example, but if the vendors and the chefs are coming with their own following and they're already active, then everybody grows together. And so that was something that I was attentive to, but also then helped support the ones that needed a little bit of a boost, because it is daunting. Yeah.
And it can be really difficult, especially, Sarah and I are both considered millennials. And so we kind of came into the age of having technology at our fingertips. So we had to learn it. Our kids, on the other hand, we have two boys at 15 and 18, almost 18 and 15. And they were pretty much bored in the world of technology. So if I needed them to create a marketing material for me, my older son is into digital design, and he can even create typography, and it's so easy. Now, if I were to ask, my dad or my mom to do the same thing, they would be so overwhelmed and stressed out, and it wouldn't mean that they didn't have a great business offering, and it didn't mean that they didn't have amazing food, but maybe they weren't as good at marketing. And the amount of money that people charge sometimes for marketing materials, and that's part of the reason why we wanted to create this class, to help, you want to support local businesses, but you don't want to get scalped, by, people who are coming in and charging, I think there's $2,000 for this one thing, and it might be okay, and maybe it doesn't hit your mission, but like, how can you do some of it on your own and figure out how to do it, and then you outsource the things that may be really difficult. And so again, sometimes the following isn't necessarily that they don't have people that love their food. It's just they're not very good at maybe posting the pictures and showing some of that thing so that you can tell publicly. So, they have a huge following, but maybe it's not online. And I think it's important to kind of get all that together so that people can, go, start where they are and be a good business and have good food and actually be able to grow their brand that way too.
So tell me, what does the future hold? I know you're doing the bow down and other events and taking the truck on the road. What is your 3 to 5 year plan for Hapa, and what do you see in the future?
Yeah, so similar to what you had said before, I think Kiki was her name, right? And so we're actually looking into doing, again, Sarah's the engineer also, and so we're looking into working on more shelf-stable products and working on a canning line and things. So we've been working on a few other things, like manufacturing-wise. And we're also, again, just loving on the truck and working with collaborations. And then, again, moving into that education sector where we really can kind of help bridge the gap that kind of we see where people might either lose their businesses too early or not be able to connect to their purpose while they're doing it. And working on the online class series, it's really going to try to help in a reasonable way, helping connect people to a successful business plan, a successful menu, and things like that. I've taken a lot of online classes for these things. And I think that's the one thing that they're missing out there is not just having instruction, but also, being inspired. And so that's the thing that we want to really work with, starting in Atlanta and Ohio, working with local businesses to kind of help align them with their goals and purpose to really make sure their business can thrive because they're doing what they love to do, not just what they think they have to do for money. And so that's our next huge goals. And again, that's going to be through Adventure Vita, which is our parent company.
Why Atlanta and why Ohio? Tell me
so
more.
Sarah actually went to the Ohio State. I get in trouble if I don't say the. And yes, and so we live in Atlanta now. I moved here during the pandemic, which, as you know, was very interesting from the Bay Area. And so Atlanta's our home now, but Ohio is where Sarah's really connected to there and has a huge community that just adores her and the work she's done. I always do a humble brag for her, and she would never say it out loud, but she was voted the #1 food truck in Columbus, Ohio for I think 6 or 7 of the 8 years that she was open there. So it was really challenging for her to always, show up her best, but she always shows up with a smile on her face, as do I. And, it really is a huge part of our business is to not just sell food, but to sell the experience also. It means a lot to us.
So tell me, do the boys get involved beyond helping to do some marketing, creative? Do they help in operations, meeting with people? I'm sure seeing you in action is such an inspiration. I was just actually talking to a dad earlier, and he said, my kids came and they sat at the counter, but then, 20 minutes passed and my son looked up and he said, Dad, noticing that you do everything with purpose. Make sure that the chili is not spilled over onto the, the paper on the tray, and that you've got these fine little moments and things that you're doing to make sure that your guests are having that fully beautiful experience. And I said to him, it's funny, even as a kid, I told my dad, stop lecturing me. But when I would be around him and not talk, I learned so much. So I'm watching by his actions, and I would get annoyed when he tried to tell me something, but I think I personally just absorbed more in watching him in motion. So how has the experience been with the boys? And tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. My kids are my entire life. And again, we grew up together. So that was a very interesting part of our journey, is not only seeing me succeed in the food industry, but also me succeed at anything when technically, statistically, I shouldn't be where I am, but I am. And so having them see my growth and my ability to kind of keep my head above water during even the toughest times means a lot. And they love being a part of the business. So I will say that both of them are completely different. My older son is a little bit more social and energetic, and loves to cook. He's very quick learner at pretty much anything. So he gets to cook on the truck. He works the window. So most of the time, if you go there and you see a sweet little smile, that'll be our oldest son, Jeremiah. He's helped out immensely at keeping our business flowing and growing. And as much as he hates when I fuss at him, I'm like, don't do it this way. And he's like, oh, okay. But he does it. And, one thing that's very similar to the experience that you just shared is that I think maybe a week or two ago, he said, Mom. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I just want to tell you and Sarah that you guys have brand honesty. And I was like, what? And he said, a lot of places on the internet or TikTok, I see this food and it looks so good, and I go and I'm disappointed, or I go and it doesn't look the same. Or he's like, even if, you go to a store and you're like, oh, and that burger, it looks so good. And then you get it and you're just like, this is not what I ordered. He said, what I notice is that every time you guys make food, you make it consistently beautiful, and the food always tastes the same. And so people, when they come, they know they're going to get beautiful food. And some people don't expect it. So they say, oh, it looks like that in the picture, and they get it and they always look shocked. And he said, it's just a testament to how much you guys care about your food and your customers. You could just throw it all together, but you don't. We stop taking orders when we get too busy. We have days where we fail, but we really try to make it up to our customers if it is a rough day. And he sees that and he appreciates that so much, and it's helped him become more social, more. He said, I just noticed I can talk to people easier now. And he's like, I don't ever want to work in the service industry. Don't get me wrong. I'm good. And he's an artist and he wants to be an architect, I believe now. And that's his goal. And he's graduating this year. And, he's just like, but what I'm learning is how to talk to people, how to stand up for myself in rough situations. People could be really mean in service industry, and he's the sweetest kid, and he's learned how to be assertive without being aggressive, and really just help handle situations. And he said it's really helped him learn how to talk to everybody, not just his friends and not just us as parents, but to everybody. And I love that. He's the sweetest. And our younger son, he's actually high functioning autistic. He's the sweetest kid ever. He doesn't really do people. He doesn't do loud, and he doesn't do too chaotic. However, he is amazing at helping us with the more organizational things, or if we're doing maybe a pre-order packaging things. And he loves to go to the truck. He helped me paint the truck for our yearly paint job. We just painted it together, and he was so happy. And he gets to take breaks when he wants, and he loves going to the prep kitchen at prep. And there's a little office in there. He's like, I'm going to take a break in the office, and it's air conditioned in there. And so he just loves to just be around us when we're working. And he always is product tester number one. So he's always like, okay, this is good. And he gets really excited. And he actually does want to work in the food industry. He actually wants to be a cafe owner, and he wants to have this small cafe that's really quiet. And he's learned through us that he doesn't have to have this super busy Starbucks type situation. He just wants a small thing that he can connect with a couple of people at a time. He doesn't want too much space, and he's realized, his love for food can be, experienced the way that makes him feel good, not just the way that other people might do it. And so I love that for him. And I love that my older son doesn't want to do it, because that means that he knows he's learned how to take what he needs from it and move on. He does say he thinks everybody should work in the service industry at least once, so that you can really understand what all of these people do and work so hard for.
I completely agree with him. I feel like it should be a rite of passage. I feel like, especially post-pandemic, I almost feel like people don't know how to interact with one another. I think we all should go back and get our driver's licenses again, because I think people forgot how to drive, despite potholes.
Specifically in Atlanta.
Yes. But I think it's important. I think even going into architecture, for him to understand how to promote his business, how to talk to prospective clients. I think that's the biggest detriment with phones and computers and TVs, is that we need this as much as we think we don't. I mean, I think the US, the Surgeon General's warning was that we're the loneliest we've ever been. And I was desperately hoping post-pandemic, because I watched every movie with my children that I had ever wanted to in my entire lifetime. I got it all done because basically we did school, we did food, and then we watched a half a movie or a movie every night for like a year and a half. And so I feel like we need to get back to this interaction and having conversations, and that's why I'm such a huge proponent of restaurants, food halls, gatherings, entertainment, anything we can do to, yeah, it's fine if we want to take some pictures with our phone and document the moment, but otherwise, like, put it down and listen to some good music and eat some really good food, because you can't eat and be on your phone at the same time and truly enjoy what is going into your body.
And that's one of the things that, like I said, when people get the food and they're so excited to take pictures, when I see those phones go down, they don't pay attention to them again. You see them talking, you have to try this. Like, did you try this part? Like, can I eat this flour? And so you can see like these conversations, and I love it. And I actually love getting to, especially at breweries and such, where I can actually still see people when they're sitting down and seeing the way that they're interacting with their like food and their the people that are with them, and they're sharing things. And I love that. I love watching people really get to interact and enjoy. And again, we could do DoorDash and do all of that, but the food's not going to be as great because, of course, you don't know how far it's going and things like, you don't know if it's going to get shaken up in the box. And so we could do that, but that's not really our forte. We really just want people to come to us and have an experience that they can we have I had somebody who came last year, and when their mom came in town, that last year was the first place they came. I had such a great experience. My mom used to live in Hawaii, and I had to bring her here, and they're just sitting there with their mom, like, Mom, do you like this? Mom, what do you think? And they were so excited to share that experience with their mom because they had it first and they wanted her to, as soon as she got here, it was the first place that they came. And I love that. I love getting to see them. It's like, oh, this is the mom you told us about. And again, that comes from us really wanting to talk to our customers. That comes from us really wanting to engage and ask those questions and watch people's kids grow up. We have, Sara calls them aloha babies, and they're the people that, even since she started the first truck, you see them go from actually a newborn to a 9-year-old. It's a huge different kid, and the kid still loves the same things they ate when they were 2, and they're still eating the same things at the truck now. And some of them might have been 9 and now they're graduating high school. And so you're watching them, asking if they can come work on the truck even. And so, it's really special for us to, be able to create space for interaction, not just to, grab food because it's sustenance, but also that, it gives substance to life. Food is everything to me. Food is art, food is culture, and it's, it's community. And I think Sara and I really want to, make sure we share that even with our kids. Our oldest one, like I said, he might not want to work in service industry, but I love watching him cook for his friends, and he'll cook the most beautiful food, and he's cutting his meat against the grain, and it's perfectly like medium rare. And, I'm watching him make steak for his best friends, and they're just like, wow. And, they're used to eating, maybe like McDonald's or like something like that. And so they come over and they get to have this crazy meal, created by a fellow 16, 17-year-old. And it's something for him to be proud of and get his chance to experience new things. And they, I think they had like a day where they made like Asian food together, and they're like making dumplings and things. And I love to see that. It's really important, I think, especially for kids now, to see, that they can find art also in the things that they love. And food is something we have every single day. So why not start there?
You've definitely spoiled him. He's going to be very popular in school, in architecture school, because he actually makes real food. So
right,
you've done a great job.
Thank you. I always say in college you'll be fine, because we do this thing at home called Hapa Kitchen, like the show on Food Network, where we have random leftovers in the fridge or things that don't seem like they go together, and we just we can go to the store, buy a couple dollars worth of things, and we have to make a meal out of it. So it's something that we do as a family when we have random leftovers, or random, we have some cheese and these random hot dogs. What are we gonna do with this? And so we'll kind of challenge each other to come up with a meal. So it's oh, you'll be fine. You can figure it out, because even his packaged ramen that he makes is gorgeous. He's like, I boiled an egg in there, and then I cut up some green onions, and so even when he does that, it's beautiful. And I'm like, you use that, you're gonna be just fine.
But even hearing your description of his level of detail in his description, because I think there's so much of art and architecture where you have to have tell that story, right? Be able to get from the client what they're looking for and distill that into a building or an offering that they're going to be happy with. So you've built a great foundation there.
Thank you. I couldn't do it without him. So he's definitely, he's my number one fan, but I'm also his. So it works out really, really well.
So where can our listeners get more information about you and Hapa and Sara?
Yeah, so Sara runs all of our social. Again, the thing that she does wonderfully. So we're at hapa.atl, not at hapa.atl. Our sister company in Ohio is at aloha.aina, AINA 614. And so those are the two places where you can usually see most of our updates. We're working on a website now, so hopefully that'll be up soon. And that will we always post on the Hapa Instagram what we're going to be doing next, and we'll be posting more about our food truck courses and things like that there before we move over onto our website. So definitely follow us and see where we're up to. We're always hopping around the Atlanta area, and if you live in Columbus, Ohio, also we're there periodically. So come check us out, and just hopefully when you come, you'll have the experience that we really always hope that we can share, and that's just leaving feeling a little bit better. I love seeing somebody walk up a little grumpy and leave a big old smile on their face of what else can we do in life besides help make people stay a little bit better.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I can't help but feel inspired by your adventures in hospitality. It's clear the journey in the restaurant industry is as rich and diverse as the menus we create. Speaking of journeys, it's about time to wrap ours up today. So thank you so much, Jess, for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love to hear your experiences as well. So my name is Jess Gorsuch, and you are listening to Hustle and Heart.